Colleagues, we have the opportunity to change that today by voting yes on House Bill 3391.
Senator Sarah Gelser, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a difficult conversation on the floor because it is an issue that is deeply personal for everybody that sits on the floor. And I want to start by acknowledging the deep respect I have for everyone on this floor and for the deeply held beliefs that each of us hold. And I think it's very important that we respect those deeply held personal beliefs. For me today, I have to think about this as in the context of my role as a public official and some of what I've learned in a life journey that time and again has taken me to the core of the consequences of reproductive choice. Like six other individuals on this floor, I'm one of 7 individuals on this floor, as far as I know, that are members that have had the experience of growing a baby in their womb and delivering that baby and raising that baby. I could be wrong. That's the number that I count based on the children that I know. Like many people on this floor, I'm a person of faith, and I'm proud to be a person of faith and very grateful for God's guidance and hands in my life and the guidance that I've received from my pastors and spiritual leaders. Unlike some of you in this room, I don't know who else has had these experiences, but I can tell you about mine. As a young mother at 20 years old, pregnant with my very first baby, I decided to deny any prenatal testing because I knew that my choice would be that I wanted to deliver that baby. And I did, and he's perfect, and he's beautiful, and he has a very significant disability. And early in his life, I spent a great deal of time sitting in pediatric intensive care units, watching him on a ventilator, and wondering sometimes if I was doing the very best that I could do for him. I knew that I wanted more children, and I wrestled with what that meant to make that choice that I wanted more children, and was it fair for me to put that risk on another human being, knowing that I had a greater than 50% risk of repeating that same diagnosis, and that my son's experience of the syndrome we thought he had at that time was considered mild. So we decided to build our family in a different way. And that's how I came to have the experience of recognizing that none of these choices are easy. I don't know about any of the rest of you, but I've had the experience of a newly 17-year-old girl taking her newborn baby and placing her in my arms and telling me that she trusted me and asking me if I wanted her phone number so that I could call in case something bad happened later. At that moment, I knew that choice wasn't very easy either. For this girl at 17, the courage that she had, and as my own girls reached that age, I thought about the courage of her mom, and I'm really grateful that family is now very much part of our family because we're very lucky to have an open adoption, and I can tell you there's nobody in this world I have more respect for than my daughter's birth mother. We had a different adoption experience as well. We decided to adopt another baby. We wanted more children, and this kind young woman chose us. She was choosing to place her baby because she had a son with a severe heart defect, and her partner had wanted her to have an abortion. She did not, but she didn't feel like she could raise the baby. I was with her when she delivered the baby, cut the umbilical cord, held the baby up to watch the morning sun, her very first sunrise, and named her, and sat with the birth mother and realized that she was questioning her choice. And I left the hospital that day and asked a counselor to come and talk to her, and we went home that day without a baby. We left all of the car seats and the things for this young woman so that she could go home and parent. That choice had to be her choice too. As we went through the second adoption process, we learned something else that really surprised me about this issue. At this time, it was the early 2000s, Lovejoy Surgery Center, which is the largest abortion clinic in the state of Oregon, a for-profit abortion provider, at that time was facilitating more adoptions in the state of Oregon than any adoption agency in the state. I learned that part of that is even though we don't have restrictions on abortion in the state of Oregon, the idea of abortion on demand, or that you can walk in and demand an abortion just because you want one, up to the day before your baby is due, is not true. Many of those adoptions come because women have gone to that clinic to get an abortion in the second part of their second trimester or early in the second trimester and are told that nobody will perform that abortion. It does not matter if it's legal. If there's no one that will do it, it does not happen. There is no one in this state that will provide an abortion to a person on demand the day before that baby is born. There is nobody that will do that. The other place that this journey has taken me is into the disability rights world, and that's come up a couple of times on the floor. What does that mean? Does the idea that people are able to make a choice about when and whether to parent, what does that mean when we know something about genetic makeup of that potential person? In the disability rights movement, the focus there for a community that so often has had rights taken away has been, and what I have heard from individuals with disabilities and disability rights leaders over and over again, is the answer is not to take rights away from other people, but to remove the stigma and improve the rights for people that are living with disabilities. What would happen if when you got that diagnosis for Down syndrome, the response wasn't, "I'm so sorry, but congratulations"? If when a baby with Down syndrome is born, someone doesn't say, "I'm so sorry," they say, "What a beautiful baby you have right there." That is a culture and a celebration that will really change and give people very real choices. As I've gone from all of this, from a 20-year-old young woman pregnant with my first baby that denied prenatal testing to today, a 43-year-old elected official, I realize that I've gotten to make a lot of choices. I'm proud of every choice that I've made, and I would make every single one of them again. But I would never take that choice away from someone else. And that is a unique role that I have as a legislator that I didn't have when I was that 20-year-old making the decision for myself. As an elected person, I have to make a choice about whether I will take my own personal beliefs and take a choice from someone else. I had choices to make, and I got to make them. My children's birth parents had choices to make, and they got to make them. And those choices are more valuable because they were choices that were freely made. I've chosen each of my children, and I don't regret any of those choices. And as I said, I would not take those choices away from another woman. And as the good carrier said when he started this conversation, it's what this bill is really about. If you do not have access, you do not have choice. So again, I have made the choices for my life. I hope that others are able to make the choices for theirs. And at the end of the day, I hope that we can remember that when someone finds themselves in a place where they're making these decisions, there is no easy answer. Your life will be different no matter what choice you make, but nothing is easy. And again, I thank you all for your thoughtfulness and really do respect the deeply personally held beliefs of each of you. And thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Burdick, to you your time. Senator Olson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, yesterday I was excused